All right, ladies and gentlemen, the time is 6 p.m. We are going to go ahead and start the meeting. May I please have a roll call?
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Here.
Vice Mayor Woolridge.
Here.
Councilmember Hawkins.
Here.
Councilmember Galeen.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Wall.
Here.
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you. We will begin with the moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we are going to adjourn into a brief executive session. Thank you. That sounded beautiful with such a full room. Thank you. All right, with that, I do apologize. We're going to take one of our later executive session items and just move it up. So if I could please have a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion. We adjourn to executive session.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We will adjourn very shortly. All right, we certainly do appreciate everybody's patience. Need a motion to adjourn from executive session?
Make a motion to adjourn from executive session.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. At this time, we will have call to the public. I do have one call to the public, Mr. Tom Rankin.
Is he outside?
I can see him right here.
Yeah,
I don't know, he'll have an opportunity at the end.
I think he's outside.
Ready? Watch this, guys. Watch this. And we are close. Oh, here he is. I was joking with you. I was going to see if I could get you to run.
I was afraid you guys were going to be in there all night.
No, we limited it to 40 minutes because we needed to get back out here.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tom Rankin, and I live at Highway 345 West Highway 287. I'm come here to tell you tonight I made a mistake. When I was here before and I was talking about doing a temporary transfer station in town, I think all of you remember that, which could have been put up, like I said, at the end of Willow Street, could have been open 4 hours a day, 4 hours a day, 1 day a week. And I told you that people are going to be dumping in the desert. They're not. They're dumping on private property here in town. And you know it as well as I do, that then makes it a problem for the property owner. Because we can't go on private property and pick stuff up. Your attorney will tell you the same thing. Now I see stuff out on the sidewalks. People are leaving it out there. I made a mistake. They're dumping here in town. They're not going out to the desert. I would like to see you to direct your town manager to redo that, where people are not going to drive 70 miles round trip to Apache Junction to dump their trash. Period. End of story. John Anderson's the only one I've heard that says that he used to go to the landfill, out of Republic landfill on highway. I don't know how many of you all do your own yards or anything. We're in the process of doing, but when you live like I have on 2.5 acres here in town with mesquite trees and Palo Verde trees and everything right now, I'm cleaning that up and I'm putting it out back because I'm going to burn it. Once the weather gets right, I'm going to get a burning permit and I'm going to burn it. I'm not going to haul it because it could be burnt and it doesn't go in and fill up a landfill with green waste. You need to admit that you all made a mistake of following staff's recommendations, and you need to go back to staff and tell them to change it to work for the people, not work for staff. The staff work for you, you all work for the people. Change it, get it back, so we're not dumping trash on somebody else's property. Thank you.
Thank you. And just, I would refer you to Mr. Ben Bitter, because we actually are in the process of changing it, and it didn't necessarily fall on us, and we've already corrected that matter. But thank you. All right. Next, we have presentations. Item 6A is a presentation by Margaret Boone, PE Maricopa Association of Governments Project Manager on the Florence K-8 and Anthem K-8 Safe Routes to School Studies. Hi, Miss Margaret. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, ma'am. A second to get situated here, sorry about that.
That is okay. We are really excited about this opportunity, and I'm glad that we have an audience to
Good.
the information as well.
Yes, Mayor Walter, Vice Mayor Woolridge, and members of the council, thank you for inviting MAG to provide this briefing for you this evening. My name is Margaret Boone, and I work for the Maricopa Association of Governments, and we're the regional planning agency for the greater Phoenix metro area. It includes 27 cities and towns, as well in all of Maricopa, as well as some in PINAL County. And as well as 3 Native American communities. So the department that I work for relates to all facets of transportation safety planning throughout the MAG region. When MAG extended its planning boundary back into 2013, we were really thrilled to be able to work in partnership with some of our smaller communities, such as Florence. So this briefing will provide a general overview of the MAG Safe Routes to School program as an important initiative to improve safety for some of our most vulnerable users. What a Safe Routes to School study is and what it is not. A brief description of the study's scope and its deliverables, as well as some of the specific recommendations for each of the K-8 schools that were studied this round. And those recommendations are based on assessment of issues and barriers unique to each one of those schools. So the MAG Safe Routes to School program includes 3 key initiatives, or really subcategories. One is the hosting of annual crossing guard trainings. We've been holding these trainings now for about 12 years, hosting them, and we do one in the East Valley, one in the West Valley, and one in Central Phoenix. We also provide the materials from those trainings on our webpage, so that if some of the schools can't get their guards to the training, or they have guards that start in the spring semester, they can certainly use that information for additional training. The second is the programming of Transportation Alternatives federal aid funding, the allocation that the MAG region receives on an annual basis. It's through this particular funding that the town was able to conduct the Safe Routes to School studies. So that's actually what funded these studies. And that's a priority 1 project for the MAG region. The third is new. As of the fiscal year 2018, the administration of the Safe Routes to School studies. So I'll describe a little bit more in detail what that benefit is to local agencies that MAG is administering these studies. So in addition to advancing regional goals to improve safety for K-8 children walking and biking to school, this program addresses a strategy that was identified in the 2015 MAG Strategic Transportation Safety Plan. So Safe Routes to School study, what it's not. It's not a requirement for funding of the improvements or programs recommended in the study, nor is it a mandate to implement any of the recommendations. So in other words, really conducting a Safe Routes to School study does not work against the goals of the local agencies, and this is key in partnership with schools and the school districts in developing meaningful, reasonable, and effective solutions to address issues unique to each school. What a Safe Routes to School study is a proactive approach to improving safety for school children. It's also a tool for prioritizing and planning improvements, programs, and projects. It can also be used as leverage for local or federal aid funding for the improvements. It's also a framework for sustaining Safe Routes to School activities in the future, as well as to educate and encourage staff and community, and to also foster safety for children walking and biking to school. So before 2018, Safe Routes to School studies were administered by ADOT, which required sometimes a very lengthy process to develop a formal agreement. This also required local agencies to provide a cash local match that would have to be programmed into your local budget ahead of submitting the project application. Local agencies were also required to procure their own consultant services contract, which is also a very lengthy process. So now, MAG is administrating the Safe Routes to School projects, and it's this much more streamlined process. So since you all are already incorporated into the MAG planning area, no formal agreement is required. We encourage local agencies to use in-kind services instead of the local match, or in lieu of the local match. The staff that put their time into the development of these studies reported that time on a quarterly basis to MAG, and that made the in-kind proportion that the town was needed to lend in. So MAG also pre-qualifies consultants on an all-call list with very specific requirements towards completing the tasks in the scope. So the scope of Safe Routes to School study includes data and policy gathering tasks, assessments of existing pedestrian and bicycle amenities and facilities. Surveys are also distributed to students and parents in order to gauge attitudes and barriers to walking and biking to school. So ultimately, the study is implemented by the town, the school, and the district. So stakeholders group representing these entities are involved in very early stages, even in the scoping of the project. So because the study is a tool for you to prioritize the recommended improvements, the stakeholders group must be a close-knit group that must agree on the recommendations as a key component to the success of the Safe Routes to School project. So some of the deliverables include tools for tracking, celebrating, planning for successes, a memo describing the findings of the inventories of the walking and biking facilities assessment, and a final report as well, which includes an action plan and a walking biking route map. And since I'm big into gardening, I chose garden tools as my graphic. So some of the Safe Routes to School study incomes. As I mentioned earlier, the Safe Routes to School final report includes an action plan. And the sample that's provided to you at the bottom of the screen there is used as a simplified method to describe the issue observed, recommendation for either education, encouragement, enforcement, or engineering strategy, what tasks would be required for each one of those, by whom, and some potential funding sources for those. So this format has been used by local agencies in coordinations with schools and districts to plan and prioritize how the action plan will be addressed in a time frame that really suits them best. So the example provided highlights an education strategy that's actually already been addressed. So when I was processing this year's crossing guard attendance, I was very pleased to see that we had 5 crossing guards for Florence K-8 and Santan Heights attend this year's MESA training, so I was really happy to see that. Some other key strategies for Anthem included one for enforcement. Driving behaviors are greatly impacted if there's consequences. I think we all understand that. Many agencies have found this effective when coordinating a program to possibly include other schools that can be conducted on a consistent basis. So the Governor's Office of Highway Safety has funding that they can provide to something such as this type of enforcement effort, especially when you combine it with other schools potentially. So that's a funding source that could potentially be used, and it would pay for overtime pay for off-duty officers. And this would need to be proposed by the town police, and it would go through a separate process, not through MAG, but it would go through the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. There was also an observed issue with children having to cross State Route 79 at either Maine or Butte, which resulted in a recommendation to coordinate with ADOT, since it's their facility, to evaluate installation of potential raised medians and rapid flashing beacons. So these are typically a crosswalk sign that's accompanied by flashing lights, and they kind of strobe back and forth to alert drivers that there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk, and it's activated by the pedestrian. Another item or countermeasure is the high intensity activated crosswalk, or HAWK. This is an actual signalized pedestrian crossing that actually stops traffic. They have to, the red light comes on just like it would at a normal signalized intersection, so traffic would have to stop while the pedestrians are in the crosswalk. So ADOT would actually be the lead on that to seek funding for that, but other phases or the potential procurement of some of the equipment could be funded through another MAG, Transportation Alternatives Grant. So, and then there's a common recommendation really for both schools as a strategy to encourage more K through 8 children to walk and bike to school. Based on this, the information provided in the surveys, a successful initiative implemented as a best practice is to initiate a walking school bus or a bike train. So this is a parent or maybe a group of parents that will walk a group of children to school every morning. And so one parent doesn't get overwhelmed, another parent might do it another day, and kind of the same thing with the bike train. So for Florence K-8, I prepared myself a little cheat sheet here, so let's see here. Yes, this was the issue of the crossing guard. We only have one crossing guard at American Way and Anthem Way, and I guess there was a question that was raised about because it's kind of a U configuration, it's really safer if you have 2 crossing guards. So one of the options would be to look at potentially moving that crosswalk to the east side of the road so that you could just be able to use the 1 crossing guard. But in the interim, it would be safer to provide the 2 crossing guards. So for instance, the task there would be to coordinate with the town staff to assess the feasibility of relocating the American Way crosswalk. And if the school considers this a complex crossing, 2 crossing guards should be considered for this location. So that would be something that would have to, obviously, because the district employs the crossing guards, they would have to provide another guard. So,
Excuse me.
yes,
We do have 2 crossing guards.
you do have 2 crossing guards.
But not at that location. So I think what she's saying is, you know where the kiddos on Anthem Way, where it's coming, or not Anthem Way, what's that? Is that Anthem? American Way. American Way where it's coming down. There's a crosswalk that goes across American Way and then across the other road in front of the Anthem School. So I think what she's saying is,
No, we're talking about moving. I understand that.
Yes.
But there is 2 crossing guards out there.
no, there's only 1 in the mornings. And there's 2, but they're at different locations. One is up here at this crosswalk, but I think if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying 2 guards for 1 to go across this way, 1 to go across this way?
Right, so because of the amount of turning movements, vehicle turning movements that you have going in and out of that location, it's really safer to have 2 crossing guards.
Okay.
But if you were to move the crosswalk to the other side, you could just utilize 1 crossing guard.
I understand.
Is that accurate, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure. Another, and this one was for enforcement. We had a crossing guard that mentioned that there's a bus that picks up high school students just north of the school driveway, and vehicles have been observed passing the school bus. So one of the strategies would be to enforce school bus no passing law. And the task would be to partner with the town police to provide periodic enforcement at this bus stop. So similarly to the strategy I was talking about at Anthem, your town PD could come up with kind of a comprehensive package of enforcement that they could then go to GOES and seek funding. And then another one for engineering would be that the pavement markings are faded, lane line striping is faded and needs refreshed. The task would be to refresh pavement markings on a regular cycle. And I wanted to mention this one because in my former life, I was the traffic engineer for the city of Avondale, and I put in a plan, and it actually ended up saving us money in the long run, I think. And just every year, we would refresh those stripings around the schools on an annual basis. My crew would go out there about 2 weeks before school started and get all those nice and refreshed for school start. So that might be something that you'd want to consider. So I think that's all I have right now as far as those were some of the real key findings on each one of those. So in summary, MAG is really happy to administer this streamlined process. We have really many lessons learned, and I want to follow up with your staff and kind of get some of their feedback on some of the things that happened this inaugural cycle. We plan on using some of that feedback to enhance our future studies. It's important that this process really foster partnerships between the local agency staff, the schools, and the school districts for a common goal of improving safety of our children. So with that, I'll take any other questions you may have, and I apologize, but this background is not showing the links very well. All the information on either the Transportation Alternatives Funding, the Safe Routes to School program itself, the crossing guard trainings are at srts.azmag.gov. And then the link at the bottom is very lengthy. If you want more information, just simply get a hold of me and I can point you towards those links. It's really hard to see them on the screen right now.
What we can do is would you be able to share this with Mr. Ben Bitter? And then we can
Absolutely.
change the coloring and post it onto the town website so anybody who wants additional information can obtain it?
Absolutely.
Okay. I did have one question regarding the hawk, the signal light. If there was an existing light that was already there, how challenging or would it be possible to turn that into a hawk? And what I'm thinking is we do have some students that walk from the Anthem community over to the ALA school, which is on the opposite side of Hunt Highway. We have a light there, and I know that some parents and residents have expressed concern regarding their students crossing. And I didn't know if that was something that we could do with an existing.
So you're saying there's an existing traffic signal intersection that children are crossing?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it have the countdown pedestrian signals?
Not to my knowledge, no.
That may be an option. I don't know that you would replace a traffic signal with a hawk, but what you could do is enhance it to include the pedestrian countdown, as well as providing a guard at that location as well. So I've seen that as well, where the crossing guard would act as adult supervision in helping them get across. And then also looking at the signal timing to make sure that we're providing adequate crossing time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any council members that have any questions?
Well, on the crossing guard on what we were just talking about on Hunt Highway, that's a charter school, so would the charter school pay the guard, or would that be up to the Florence School District?
No, it's charter. It's totally, so like FUSD schools take care of the FUSD crossing areas, as well as any charter schools take care of their crossing areas.
I didn't know for sure, that's why I was wondering.
Oh, no, that's okay. Great question.
That is a really good question, and in fact, we're having a lot more charter schools send their guards to our training, so that's encouraging as well.
My goal is just to make sure all the kids in the community are safe. I think that's
Absolutely.
everybody's goal up here. Mr. Billingsley.
Thank you for the comments. What I take away from this, and I'm looking at Mr. Salas, who's our town engineer, we'll look at a pedestrian signal warrant at that location. As it stands now, there's not a pedestrian phase at that signal, nor is there any striping for a crosswalk. We'll take a look at that, and we'll also reach out to the school to answer your question, Councilman Hawkins, and see if they'd be willing to provide a crossing guard at that location.
That's a really
But keep
good.
in mind, it's not something that you implement immediately. It's very expensive to do that, so we'll take a look at it.
I just wanted to add on to Bill's comment. I had requested that ALA be a part of this study, and it was deemed that that wasn't something that was going to happen this round. So it looks like we're going to be possibly pursuing that this next round. So just like we have all said here, we do care about all of the children that are in the Florence area. So it's not that we're specifying that we only care about the kids in FUSD or that there's any type of hostility or not working together. We're just hoping to get that next round for that specific school. So I just wanted to clarify that.
One other thing that we might do is just look at the timing on that light currently, because I've crossed that intersection. There's no way you can get across that intersection before the light changes. So I look at just extending the light a little bit.
Well, we do thank you for coming out here. And I just wanted to kind of sum up with your presentation. Additional benefits include, increased physical activity, increased traffic safety, and we're really just looking to, make sure the kids are safe going to school. So thank you very much for all that you do.
Thank you.
All right, our second presentation this evening is Active Transportation Plan presentation. Mr. Brian Hughes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's exciting that we're here tonight to kind of kick off the Active Transportation Plan at the same time that we got an update on the Safe Route to School, because they really do go hand in hand. Last year, we were able to apply for a grant through MAG for a first-time bicycle and pedestrian master plan. And that basically is looking at our bike lanes, our pedestrian sidewalks, things like that, and making sure that people can, there's connectivity between areas. And so it was a competitive grant process. We were able to get a grant for approximately $95,000 and 20% match by the town. So a big savings there for us to get this plan. And it goes, again, hand in hand with the Safe Routes to School. It's also going to be a component with the general plan update that we'll be doing next year. And also will tie in a little bit with the Parks and Rec comprehensive plan that we're getting ready to kick off. So everything's kind of coming together right now, and the timing is excellent. As Margaret mentioned in her presentation, MAG has on-call consultants as part of their services, so we were able to take advantage of that and get Michael Baker International as our consultant for the Active Transportation Plan, Bicycle Pedestrian Trails, and they are also the same consultant that presented to you guys a while back on the Transportation Plan, so there's a lot of commonalities there that we want to take advantage of. So Kevin Kugler with Michael Baker International is here tonight to kind of give you guys a brief overview of what's going to be happening with the Active Transportation Plan and how some of these things will fit together. Kevin?
You have to watch the moving chairs, Kevin.
Yeah, both Margaret and I are getting tripped up literally over there, so.
I saw the legs on it move.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be here this evening and being respectful and recognizing you have a heavy agenda tonight. I'm going to try to keep these remarks succinct, but yet comprehensive to cover the input that you need moving forward. And as Brian said, this is a great springboard off the heels of Margaret's presentation because they really do go hand in hand. My name is Kevin Kugler with Michael Baker International, and I run the Transportation Community Planning practice leads at Michael Baker in the Phoenix office, longtime Arizona, no stranger to Florence, so thank you once again for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. As Brian said, we're going to introduce the project to you tonight and review, in a snapshot at least, the work plan and the schedule, kind of talk about where it is and where we're going, and at least allow the opportunity, if you'd like to provide some input to share some of your issues and concerns and objectives, whether that's tonight or if you're like me, you go home after a long night and an agenda and you think of something, go ahead and email Brian or Brett or whoever, and they can forward those ideas to me. That would be great. So, in terms of introducing the project, certainly the purpose and need. The town of Florence, as Brian mentioned, I wanted to make a note that you all competed for and was awarded a grant. It wasn't like the grant was just handed to you. So you had to compete against your other peer communities to receive this from MAG. So compliments to staff and their abilities to package a proposal to MAG to be successful in receiving this award from MAG for the preparation of what we're calling the Active Transportation Plan, which is really akin to a bicycle and pedestrian master plan, as Brian alluded to. And this is really the first time as the town of Florence has had such a plan. You do have a parks, trails, and open space comprehensive plan, but this plan has a more direct and immediate focus on bikes and pedestrians. How will the Active Transportation Plan really directly help the town of Florence? I know there's a lot of words there, but really in its essence, it's to really help develop policies and procedures necessary to create a system for bicycle and pedestrian traffic to be really integrated in a safe and efficient multimodal transportation system for the town. And those policies on the second bullet point there will be supported by maps and other graphics to help identify and promote enhanced mobility in town. Whether that's pedestrian paths or trails, bicycle paths or trails, whether we're talking about connecting neighborhoods to neighborhoods or activity centers to activity centers, some of the wonderful amenities that you have around here with the aquatic center, the community center, or if it's connecting Anthem to the downtown and so on and so forth. That's the primary focus and what this plan is going to help achieve. But it's also going to be, for the first time, provide you a formal inventory of existing bike and pedestrian facilities. And probably more important is identify those gaps that you have in the system and how we can look to the future to connect those gaps. We are going to conduct a survey of Florence residents, and Mayor Walter and members of the council, I appreciate you helping us get the word out on this. We'll have it available on the town website. We certainly want to understand residents' attitudes and behaviors relative to walking and biking, and better understand what the community's expectations are on those issues. So this process will have an opportunity to hear and vet those ideas and concerns. There's also safety concerns and recommended design solutions at some spot locations in particular. And last but certainly not least, we'll use that community input to help evaluate and prioritize short, medium, and long-term improvements that are going to be recommended as part of this plan. This map looks a little bit like a bowl of spaghetti with a lot of lines going everywhere. I wouldn't want to commit you to memorizing that by any means, but simply put, the study area is the formal town limits for the town of Florence, some 62 square miles there, plus or minus. The map that you see before you is a map that we've helped kind of put together or build at least from your existing parks, trails, and open space plan. So if that map looks somewhat familiar to you, the foundation piece of information is familiar from the existing plan. So we'll use this as a jumping off point moving forward to validate what's in that aspect of the plan today, but then really grow it from there and evolve it to more policies and short and medium and long-term recommendations, like I said. So this slide is really an essence of a snapshot of the work plan in the schedule, all in one. We are there's basically 4 phases to the project. Initiation, then we'll do the existing and future conditions analysis, then we'll have the evaluation criteria and the plan of improvements, as we call it, and then we'll have the draft and the final actual documents, active transportation plan itself. So if moving from left to right on your slide or screen there, we're at the tail end of the initiation project. We've been working hard with your staff to collect data, discuss from their standpoint what is important, their objectives for the project. We also have a technical advisory committee that we have met with, and we also did this similar presentation to the Parks Board / Planning Commission as a joint work session on August 2nd to roll the plan out, and here we are in front of Town Council as the last step of the initiation of the project. As we turn the corner looking ahead towards the next phase that's beginning in August through October, we're going to be doing a lot of analysis of existing plans and studies. We're going to be doing some bike and pedestrian counts, actual physical counts at 5 different locations, which we've been identifying with staff and are all ears if you have some particular areas you would like us to do some of those counts. Maybe pivot off of Margaret's presentation from earlier. We're going to do that gap analysis I talked about in the survey I also mentioned, and then we'll put together the first technical memorandum to roll out that kind of existing conditions analysis and present that at a TAC meeting, a Technical Advisory Committee meeting. And then moving forward to the third phase of the plan, we'll then move forward with preparing a second technical memo that will come up with a set of evaluation criteria and a recommended plan of improvements with some typical trail, pedestrian, and bicycle facility cross-sections and some policies to help support the implementation of those different plans. So not only are you going to have alignments on a map showing where these trails, sidewalks, bike paths, all different types of bike facilities, where they should be and how they should connect. We're going to give you cross-sections as to what they should look like, so there's an expectation for you all and members of the development community or anyone who's developing within or adjacent to your right-of-way, and then policies to help you implement those. So we will, once we have that draft plan, we'll be rolling those out. Very important to underscore that we'll be doing another Parks and Board/Planning Commission briefing to roll that out. We will have a town-wide community open house meeting to roll those out and vet those with yourselves and your neighbors and friends. And then we will also come back to you all with a council briefing on that draft plan. Once we collect all that information, simply put, the last phase of the process is looking to draft the actual plan itself, roll out that draft plan to a second community open house meeting, and then finalize the active transportation plan. And all told, that should be buttoned up around April, maybe early May of 2019 at the end of the day. So I promised you, Mayor and Council, I'd keep my comments brief. But last but not least, wanted to identify, if you certainly were here to listen to you all to the extent you would care to add this evening, or like I said, follow up with staff on your own time. Issues and concerns and objectives for this process. It can relate to any kind of, in no particular order there. Those are a lot of the issues that we'll be looking at, whether it's the CAP Canal Trail, whether it's connecting existing neighborhoods as I talked about. Is it certain public engagement tools or things you want us to be aware of along the way? Bike or ped count locations. One thing I did not talk about is connecting to transit stops along the way as well. So making sure there's connectivity at different places and activity centers and to the different modes of transportation. So if you had any comments or questions, I'm all ears this evening. But our next steps in the process will be to, as I mentioned, is to continue the data collection process. And we'll be working closely with staff to begin those field investigations and those bike and ped counts and begin that first preparation of the first technical memorandum. So that's all I have this evening. Mayor, I'm certainly available should you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any council members have any comments? Go ahead, Mr. Councilmember Anderson.
Yes, I'm assuming that, Brian, you're going to be out in our neighborhood about 5 o'clock in the morning to do the count? Because that's that's when the bike riders are out.
Mayor and Councilmember Anderson, and trying to help Brian not be out there at 5 a.m. With the wonders of technology, we will have the counts these days for those are done actually with video cameras.
Oh, good.
So we'll have the ability to kind of do a 24/7 count and spare Brian the opportunity to be up early. And
Great.
At least that early.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we really appreciated that presentation. This has been a long time in the making. We've been really working towards this, so I want to say thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity and look forward to collaborating with you in the future.
And you'll be around afterwards in case any members of the audience have anything they want to ask you?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
So, thank you so much. All right. Our next two items are recognitions. So I'd like to begin with item number C. And is there a microphone down there by the chance? Awesome. Just wanted to make sure I went in the agenda order. All right, Mr. Noah Rudko. So Noah, come on up here. I'm going to say a few words about you. So this is Noah Rudko. Noah Rudko came to the Development Services Department as an intern after completing his third year at ASU, where he had a focus on civil engineering. So he was assigned numerous tasks within the department throughout the summer and has provided invaluable assistance to the planning division. He's worked directly with the planning manager. Noah has successfully created a comprehensive system for searching project files and maps dating back 20 years. While doing so, he uncovered town street and improvement maps dating back to the 1930s. While working on this task, Noah took advantage of the opportunity to spend time with each of the Development Services Public Work divisions to better understand the workings of the municipal operations and to expose him to various aspects of civil engineering. Once completed with his initial task, Noah was able to work with GIS and be exposed to the engineering benefits that GIS has to offer, and at the same time provide valuable assistance to the GIS coordinator in digitizing engineering data that will assist Public Works in the execution of their duties. So Noah proved himself to be a valuable asset to the town throughout his tenure. We graciously appreciate his willingness to tackle any project assigned to him, and we are certain his future endeavors will be equally fruitful. I'd also like to welcome up Larry Harner. And Chris, would you like to come up as well? Because Noah had some kind things to say about both of you gentlemen, to be quite honest with you.
Thank you, Mayor. And since I wrote that, then that pretty much covers all of it. But actually, it was really interesting is because we did discover so many old documents that will lend itself to demonstrating the transition that the town has had over the years, including what we had to educate a lot of people as to what real blueprints look like, which means they were blue with white lines. They haven't done those in over 60, 70 years. So that's the kind of documents that we found. We also discovered in the course of getting into this project that a lot of the filing system, however comprehensive it was, changed every few years. Some was alphabetical, some was chronological. So the catalog that we now have makes it useful, and that's pretty important to us.
So I just want to take a minute to thank Noah for all of the things that he did. Once again, the things that you wrote, Larry, are very accurate. Noah was out with different people daily, again, doing a lot of field work with our engineering inspector. He was working with the GIS. But I think the thing that's most exciting, and especially for somebody who wants to share the same profession as myself as an engineer, is the fact that Noah's reached out to the town about creating an EIT program, which we don't currently really have at this moment. And hopefully he'll be instrumental in pushing me to help him create a program that will actually kind of live on past Noah and maybe even myself. And again, we can have something to have a little bit of structure for young aspiring professional engineers in this program there. So again, I think it's great that Noah's the one that actually reached out and has asked, and he's also hoping to do some additional hours during spring break, fall break, Christmas break, and obviously next summer for, again, an EIT program. So we look forward to having you back, sir, very soon.
Share what the EIT program is, because I love being able to have interns come into the town, and this is like the next level intern for what services we would be able to provide.
So very briefly, EIT stands for Engineering Training. So when you are going through your college curriculum, at some point you are to take an exam where you're able to enter in an engineering training program. So the EIT exam essentially has all your fundamentals. So there'll be calculus, there'll be physics, there'll be statics, there'll be dynamics, there'll be a bunch of questions that again establish that baseline, and then through the engineering training program, essentially, you would be working under an engineer or with an engineering field and earning hours towards your PE. So you have to have multiple things, multiple criteria to become a professional engineer. In the state of Arizona, the Technical Board of Registration has so many hours working under a professional. Then you have to obviously take a test and show technical proficiency, which this test is 8 hours, 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the afternoon. So you're spending 4 hours doing in general, and then your 4 hours of your very specific, which would be transportation, geotechnical, water resources, structural. So these are the kind of things that he looks forward to. But again, I obviously my passion in life is engineering, and so as a whole, engineers are typically very philanthropic, and Noah exudes these qualities because it seems like he really did enjoy working for the town and learning. And I'm so gracious again that he got to spend time with us and someone like Larry. And one of the things that I wanted him to understand was beyond the technical, what it takes every day to become a professional. So I hope that we showed a little bit of that to Noah. Again, showing up early, working a little bit late. So I think we've got some very good examples in our group of that. So thank you very much, Noah.
Thank you.
Noah, would you like to say a few words?
I didn't know I have to. Yeah, I really appreciated my time working for my time. I learned a lot from Larry and Chris and everybody else in Public Works. And I really hope that I can continue working here and hopefully make a pretty good career out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing letter that Larry wrote for you, as well as a certificate of internship. Want to do a little, ready? Everybody want to come in? We're going to do a picture. See, none of you knew this was happening, did you?
Yeah, right.
This one's going to be paper, by the way, so it's real big.
Better than the post office. Or a milk carton.
Is that anything? No, I'm just kidding.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Put this inside and show you. All right, Matthew, come on up. How are you today? Good, thank you for being here. Okay, so Matthew has provided valuable assistance in administration during his 3-month tenure with the town. Matthew was responsible for updating tour operator itineraries, media contact lists, and the downtown walking tour brochure. In fact, he developed 2 new 30-minute walking tours of downtown to give visitors more options to visit the historic district. His work in this area enhances the visitor experience in Florence. Matt also assisted staff with compiling data for the town's economic profile. This project included updating information for the MAG employer database and group quarters lists, obtaining current unemployment rate information and labor force information for Florence. He expanded commercial property inventory that improves efficiency in responding to information requests related to economic development. And Matt's contributions in this area enable staff to provide up-to-date and relevant information for business attraction and expansion activities, which I know we all are interested in. Those are huge, huge things that we're all working towards as a town. Matthew, I also want to invite Miss Jennifer Evans up. She wrote you this lovely letter that you'll be able to put in any job applications, anything that you have out there. We do hope, you'll apply and stay with us. And all right, Miss Jennifer Evans.
Oh, thank you. I just want to say how much of a pleasure it was having you working in our office over the last 3 months. And I know sometimes what I've asked you to do didn't sound very glamorous, but it's the basics. You got the basics down, and that's important. And those are skills that you can take with you that will serve you well in your work life. So I hope you took something away from your time here. I know on top of the work that you did, I know we enjoyed having you around, and I know we miss you already. So good luck. And again, it was a pleasure to work with you. Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Billingsley also will ask to say a few words prior to the meeting.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have Matt in the office. Another local kid going to school, junior in college. Last year, he worked for the chamber in Eloy, and lucky for us, Matt is now thinking that he might want to get into the public sector in the future. And thank you for reaching out to us. Thank you for serving us so well. One of the things that I would say about Matt is very professional, very polite, very well dressed, and also hardworking to boot. So it's a lot of fun having interns and having local young people that are here and passionate about their county where they live and making a difference. So thank you very much, Matt. We appreciate it.
Would you like to say a few words as well? All right.
I'd like to thank everybody for the opportunity to be here and everybody for helping me that was on staff, especially Jennifer. She answered all my questions that I had all day when she was busy. And I'd like to thank Brent and everybody and Maria. And I'd like to say hi to my mom and dad. They're watching on live stream. But yeah, just thank you to everybody for the opportunity.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So we also have an amazing certificate for you. Your certificate of internship. So you'll be able to have this as well as your letter.
Thank you.
Are you ready? Come on in, Mr. We need to have 4. 4 is a nice even number. All right. Thank you again, Matt.
Thank you.
Oh, your letter. Everybody who is going to school and interested to work in the public sector, you know, it never hurts to reach out and ask how you can be involved in the experience. Because we definitely are focused on bringing our youth on board and providing those opportunities. So thank you for your service. All right, our next item is item E, Mr. Bruce Long, who is representing the 5 parks, presenting concerns on the fire code portion of the International Building Codes. Hi, Mr. Long, how are you tonight?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for your patience this evening.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
Excellent.
Madam Mayor, Town Council, my name is Bruce Long. I live at 204 East Choya Lane in Florence, which is in Caliente, Casa de Sol. I'm a board member of the HOA for Caliente. I'm also the president of the Citizens for 5 Parks United, which at this point we're still counting, but it's looking like we have well over 300 voters in the parks, Caliente and the other parks involved. The community of Caliente, Casa de Sol respectfully requests that the town of Florence allow the replacement of existing park models with new units utilizing the same footprint of the unit that's being removed. The International Building Code, Section 102.6, under existing structures, states that the legal occupancy of any structure existing on the date of adoption of this code shall be permitted to continue without change except as is specifically covered in this code. The International Property Maintenance Code or the International Fire Code, or as is deemed necessary by the building official for the general safety and for the welfare of the occupants. Caliente Casa de Sol, with its 856 properties, and again, that's just one of the parks there, with its 856 properties, has been in existence for over 40 years. During this time, Caliente has had just one major fire, and that did a little or no damage to the property next to it, and it was due to a malfunctioning propane heater in a unit that was built in the late 60s or early 70s, so very, very old. In fact, that's one of the reasons that we're asking that we be allowed to follow the same footprint to replace current RVs specifically, is because they'll be electric and we won't have the problem of propane anymore. We judge that your position whereby allowing continued use of our non-conforming lots, but yet denying the replacement of aging units utilizing the existing footprint is inconsistent with the intent and fabric of the IBC and IRC codes. The Planning and Zoning Department is stating that we can repair aging units as long as they are not substantially remodeled. And unfortunately, we will not be able to replace them using the original footprint, which does not allow for any replacement. As units age through maintenance and deterioration, they have increased risks of fire and general safety issues. They also become a liability to their neighboring units as well as the community in general. National Fire Protection Agency data indicates that the manufactured homes, including park models, built to HUD standards, which is post-1976 construction, have a much lower risk of death if fire occurs compared to pre-standard manufactured homes. The latest data also shows that the overall death rate per 100,000 housing units is roughly the same for manufactured homes versus stick-built 1- and 2-family homes. Our park is over 85% occupied with fixed unit structures, such as RVs and park models. The town of Florence adopted the IBC codes in October 2007, but did not start to enforce the codes until 2017. If we're forced to comply with the directives of the planning department, this will cause major disruption to our park. Accessory buildings will have to be demolished as the setback will change from 1 foot on the right side of the property to 5 feet. That would necessitate any structure that was attached to an existing park model be also moved to the left. Most of the accessory buildings can't be moved as they are on foundations. Even if they could be moved, they would protrude into the prescribed setbacks on the left side. Property values have already dropped as a result of this. Prospective purchasers have backed away from agreements. And in general, the total Caliente community is in disarray since November of 2017. When we were advised of the new codes, that actually, I didn't write all this, but actually it goes back to the summer of 2017 when myself, the manager of Caliente, and another board member who's no longer on the board met with the planning and zoning people, and that's when this whole thing started. The town of Florence allowed and approved the placement and replacement of units within the park for 10 years after it adopted the International Building Code in 2007 and allowed replacement units to occupy the exact footprint of the unit being removed. Now they say that we violate the code. Why did the town wait 10 years to apply the code? And there is an attached ordinance that is part of the information that was given to you. Dated 2008, that was enacted 1 year after the IBC was adopted and provides protection against this type of action. The town fathers in 2008 clearly did this to protect Caliente from becoming an RV resort that was headed for demise. The population of Caliente ranges in the area of 1,300 senior citizens in the winter to about 120 during the summer. And again, this is just Caliente. There are a lot more than that with the other parks. About 15% of the population is dependent upon Social Security as their only income. We hope that you will use prudent judgment in allowing existing park models to be replaced using the footprint of the old unit utilizing code compliant models. These units are several times safer than the existing models in fire safety as well as in personal safety. We wish to work with the town of Florence and will modify our setback rules in our declaration of rules to read that newly placed units that are placed on vacant property and replacement units will be placed at the back edge of the curb line. Now, this will move the units 22 inches towards the street and vacate the same distance along the rear right-of-way. This will facilitate easier access for the town's water maintenance department and working on water mains and connections. And I have a few other comments that are not in the information that you received. I hope you'll allow me to continue for just a bit. There are a number of concerns about the way we have been dealt with specifically by the planning and zoning. There are people that, there are a number of stories, I'm not going to bore you with all of them, but One of them started a year ago trying to get approval to put in an Arizona room. They finally gave up. Couldn't get it done because of the restrictions and the things that they were asked to submit just to put in a park model. And in fact, the gentleman that was involved in it had some health problems, and he just threw up his hands and said, I cannot deal with the stress and the harassment that we're getting from planning and zoning. The clubhouse roof was another major problem. It took months and months and months, and I think at some point the builder, the roofer, hopefully will come before the council and explain that. And he has been in business 40 plus years, has never ever seen the type of things that were asked of him by the planning and zoning. It really is just, it's ludicrous. And you know, I'll give you a prime example of what we have to deal with. This is so minute, but the stress that it's causing the people involved is incomprehensible. There's a gentleman that just moved into the park, bought a used park model. And he and his son is also over 55, they live together. There's a railing on the steps that is dangerous. And they have both fallen through the railing. And as I said, the son's at least 55, I'm sure his father's 75 or 80, so it is a dangerous, dangerous situation. And don't ask me why they did this, but they went down to the planning and zoning department to ask about putting another railing on their steps. Now, to my knowledge, and I haven't checked with them in the last week, so I could be wrong. To my knowledge, it still isn't done. And the biggest reason is the things that they were asked to provide to simply put a new railing on their steps. I mean, they came over to me, in fact, that's the first time I'd met them, and told me the problems they had dealing with planning and zoning. And I said, well, if you'll forgive me, I said, you know, your first mistake was going to planning and zoning. And he realizes that now. But it's, you know, these kind of things are happening all the time. If you try and put in any kind of an Arizona room or anything else, it's impossible. Caliente and the other parks that are involved have tried our best to work with the planning and zoning people. And the last full meeting where they were at our park, a number of the people from the city as well as planning and zoning came to our park to discuss this. And I will leave you with one statement that was made by someone in charge. He said, and I quote, "We have the best attorney in the state and he's never lost a case." That's what we're dealing with. Thank you. I very much appreciate your time.
Thank you for your presentation. I do appreciate the information, as well as I'm sure the rest of council does as well. At this time, I would like to have Jimmy, there you are. Jimmy and Ben, I want you to work together to put something together. I want a presentation from what is going on regarding staff perspective and all of the information. I want that at the next meeting, and I'd like to invite you to attend as well. So this way we can have that dialogue back and forth. All right, moving on into our next agenda item. This is our strategic plan update, Mr. Ben Bitter.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'm excited to be here tonight to talk about the updates to our strategic plan. I think one of the coolest things for me, I've been here about 6 months now, And as I was able to review the strategic plan, I was able to see all of the many things we're able to accomplish this year. And so something that hopefully we can review tonight. I've condensed it to about 7 slides, so hopefully we are able to get through a little quick and can get on with the rest of the action items on the agenda tonight. As you'll see, the 5 priorities from the council, I'll read through these real quick and refer back to them as we talk about the individual priorities. Community vitality regards, it says, encourage resilience, adaptation, and innovation in connecting the multidimensional nature of community life. Economic prosperity is build and diversify a local economy that is robust and resilient. The leadership and governance priority discusses how to provide effective leadership and oversight by engaging younger residents in transparent governance. The transportation and infrastructure priority says we will build and maintain physical connectivity throughout the community to reinforce community vitality and economic prosperity. And finally, partnerships and relationships lead the community in developing and nurturing partnerships in the region. So we'll start first with community vitality and some of the accomplishments there. In the last 6 months, social media presence, or the number of followers that we have on our various social media channels, has increased by 19%. That's between Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That talks about connection and communicating with our community. We obviously have the parks, trails, open space master plan process that's underway. Our events have continued to grow. The 4th of July, Christmas on Main, Halloween, movies at the pool, and our partners that have worked with Historic Florence Home Tour. These have all been successful programs that have continued to thrive in our community. And then finally, we have the RFP for the redevelopment plan, which is currently being looked at, so that we can bring that back to council for approval to send out. On the economic prosperity front, we have funding allocated this year to create a nonprofit economic development agency. We have new medical offices in Florence at Horizon Health and Sun Life, including the pharmacy at Sun Life. We have a new Circle K. We have renovated McDonald's and Burger King. We have development agreements for the old Circle K, wherein the underground storage tanks were removed and those sites were cleaned, so hopefully they can be leased to other entities in short order. We also obviously have a relationship with Innovation Pavilion that has brought partners like Airbeam, Melander, and Subex, with whom we have a working relationship on cybersecurity. For leadership and governance, the town council decreased property taxes this year by 2.5% townwide and by 10.6% in the CFDs. The town council is on the agenda tonight again, but has on the agenda tonight for the Florence Youth Commission, the creation of that, which is right in line with the goal to attract a younger audience and be sure that they're involved in our governance structure. We have enhanced transparency through the Town of Florence website, which hosts the public records portal, where anyone can go on that website, search any of the public records that are available through our Laserfish program, something that's certainly a great asset to our community. And finally, we have ensured the reliability of the water and sewer systems in Anthem by participating in the Johnson Utilities cases at the Arizona Corporation Commission. All of these things are steps that we've taken in the past year for leadership and governance. In terms of partnerships and relationships, we've continued to stay active and involved with organizations like MAG, CAG, the Arizona League of Cities, the PINAL Partnership, the PINAL Regional Transit Authority, Rotary, National League of Cities, and then a myriad of various professional organizations like the International City Management Association, the Public Works Association, state parks, etc. So a lot of groups, a lot of partnerships that we're proud to participate in. The town was also chosen to host the State Transportation Board meeting in September, so coming up next month, we'll be hosting the State Transportation Board. And we've also begun working on, believe it or not, Census 2020. Although we're more than a year and a half away, we've already started work internally in terms of gearing up for making sure that we can get all of our population counted on April 1st, 2020. And then we have our transportation and infrastructure. We did over $2.7 million of infrastructure repair and improvements in the last fiscal year. We've maintained water and sewer systems to the highest standards, including not having any violations there. As we heard this evening, the active transportation plan is under development, and running parallel to that track, we also have the regional transportation plan, which is in mid-stages as well. And then, as we heard earlier tonight, we also had the Safe Routes to School study completed. So lots of work is undergoing. We have the general plan that will be coming up before too much longer, and a lot of these elements will be tying into that general plan, really preparing us to have robust transportation infrastructure. So with that, we concluded a brief overview, obviously very high level, but wanted an opportunity to provide the council with an opportunity to ask any questions if you may have them.
Any council members have any questions regarding the strategic plan? Councilmember Wall.
I would just like to acknowledge the improved relationship that we have with the economic development section of PINAL County and two of the products that they've recently put out that include significant presence of Florence, the video and the brochure that they've recently put out. I think that's a major partnership that we have been developing with them.
Great, yeah.
You know, I appreciate that presentation. We have been working really hard on economic development for one, but also our strategic plan overall. And I feel that we've been able to clearly communicate the progress that we've been making, and through putting together the presentations that encompasses a chunk of it at a time, I'm hoping that the public also sees what positive progress has been happening within our community and how we are continuing to grow and implement new things into our community. So thank you very much. 19% is a great growth too.
Thank you.
So let's keep going. If you're not following us, I hope that those of you that are out there follow us on Facebook.
And Twitter and Instagram.
And Twitter and Instagram. All right, thank you very much. Our next item is our consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless a council member or a member of the public objects at the time the agenda item is called. Item A is acceptance of the Florence K-8 and Anthem K-8 Safe Routes to School studies. Item B, approval of a contract with Rottweiler Controls LLC to provide SCADA repairs maintenance through the cooperative contract number 317-00019 with the City of Buckeye through June 30th, 2019 in an amount not to exceed $50,000. Item C is approval of the purchase of InstaValve 250 Patriot insertion valves through HydroStop through June 30th, 2019 in an amount not to exceed $100,000. Item D is approval of a contract with ProTech Environmental Incorporated to provide sewer line cleaning through June 30th, 2019 in an amount not to exceed $100,000. Item E is the approval of July 3rd, July 16th, July 18th, July 20th, and July 30th, 2018 Town Council meeting minutes. And item F is to receive and file the following board and commission minutes: April 25th, 2018, which is the Historic District Advisory Commission minutes, and May 30th, 2018, which is the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your consent agenda. Is there any member of the council or public that would like any item removed at this time? With that, we need a motion.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda as read.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item 8 is unfinished business. Item 8A is resolution number 1675-18. This is the second reading and discussion approval, disapproval of a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, adopting a small wireless facilities in the town rights of ways, terms, and conditions. Mr. Larry Harner.
Everybody mispronounces my name. Why is that?
Well, I pronounced it correctly. However, there is a typo that needs to be fixed.
No, it's right. It's spelled right.
Is it not Harner?
Harmer.
Are you kidding? All right, so I have been mispronouncing his name, ladies and gentlemen, the entire time I have met him, and I am sincerely sorry.
And point taken, there's only about 1,000 of us in the country anyway, so
I am
it's a very
so sorry.
unusual name.
You are 2 for 2 tonight, sir.
Oh, no kidding. I'm getting it. And just for the total trivia side of it, actually, one of my ancestors, Lieutenant Colonel Harmer, served at Valley Forge under Washington. So I'm a stickler for getting it right.
Duly noted.
Okay. As you said, Mayor and Council, this is the second reading. Actually, I can do a brief presentation on this and the following two items. Be Resolution 1675-18, second reading of Ordinance 662-18, second reading of Ordinance 663-18. They are all interrelated. The resolution is the terms and conditions for the small cell wireless. Ordinance 662 is the Title 15 Land Usage Chapter of the Development Code, Chapter 150, having to do with definitions, and Part 9 of the wireless communications facilities. And 663 has to do with Title 11 business regulations, and that's for rates and fees of use in the public right-of-way and town structures. Through previous meeting and public hearing, there was a formal presentation with PowerPoint. I have that available if you'd like to go through it again. If not, I will give you the summary. Required public hearing and public meetings have been held at the general public, for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and at the Town Council. The first reading was conducted by the Town Council on August 6th. If adopted tonight, it would go into effect in 30 days. And currently, staff is not aware of any providers preparing to submit an application at this time. I'm missing something, I can tell.
Proceed.
That was it. That was the summary. You were pulling around and you missed it.
I listened, but there was some miscommunication. Somebody had mentioned that they were cold, and then I said, no, everything is fine, leave it alone. So I apologize.
I can get really detailed if you want.
Go ahead.
No.
No, we do have a very comprehensive understanding of the project. It was presented very well at the last meeting. Are there any questions from council regarding, we'll just take one agenda item at a time. Is there anybody that has questions or concerns with resolution number 1675-18?
Nope.
Okay, with Mr. Billingsley hands up, we're going to
Regarding,
opportunity.
since all three are related.
Yes.
Regarding agenda item A, you can take a normal vote, but on B and C, I would ask that you do a roll call. Thank you.
All right, so with that, we do need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 1675-18, a resolution of the Town of Florence, PINAL County, Arizona, adopting small wireless facilities and town rights-of-ways terms and conditions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Item B is ordinance number 662-18, and this is the second reading and discussion, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the Town of Florence, PINAL County, Arizona, which is amending the Town of Florence Code and Ordinances, Title 415, Land Usage, Chapter 150 of the Development Code, existing sections 150.031 definitions, and Part 9 wireless communications facilities sections 150.180 to 150.184. Case PZ 18-21 ordinance. Are there any council members that have any questions regarding this agenda item? With that, I need a roll call vote. Mr. Brent Billingsley.
All right.
Need a motion first.
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance number 662-18.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Hawkins?
Aye.
Councilmember Galeen?
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Councilmember Wall?
Aye.
Councilmember Larson?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Woolridge?
Aye.
Mayor Walter?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item C is ordinance number 663-18, which is the second reading and discussion, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the Town of Florence, PINAL County, Arizona, amending the Town of Florence Code and Ordinances, Title 9 Business Regulations, but not limited to new provisions regarding small wireless facilities and rates and fees for use of the public right-of-way and town structures. Case PZ 18-22 ordinance. Are there any council members that have any questions regarding this agenda item? I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 663-18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Councilmember Larson?
Aye.
Councilmember Hawkins?
Aye.
Councilmember Galeen?
Aye.
Councilmember Wall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Woolridge?
Aye.
Mayor Walter?
Aye.
Mayor, we have a quorum. I'm sorry, it passes. I'm used to that one.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
you, Larry Harmer, for your presentation.
I'm glad I could bring a little levity to it.
Item D is our ordinance number 664-18. This is the second reading and discussion, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, amending Chapter 32 of the Florence Town Code by adding Section 32, establishing a youth commission in the Town of Florence, Arizona. Mr. John Nixon.
Evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Incidentally, Mayor, you pronounced my name correctly, so I just thought I'd tell everybody that. I'm not as difficult as Larry is, but we'll let that go for now. I just want to give you a quick summary and update of how we've promoted the Youth Commission since the last council meeting on the 6th of August. Maybe Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, you saw the story on the front page of the newspaper written by Mark Cowling on August 9th. After that, we have sent weekly news releases out to run up until the deadline. The announcement for the Youth Commission is also on the town news website. It was also sent out to all of our town subscribers. I also sent the bylaws, the goals, and the application to the high school counselors, as well as all the social studies teachers. And incidentally, I'd like to thank very much Mr. Jeremy Scott, who's Director of Counseling. He emailed the application to all the high school students as well. And then finally today, I had the opportunity to meet with the student council members at Florence High School. I had 28 applications with me. Asked who was interested. I don't have any more. They were all interested. So right now, the indications are there's interest out there, and then hopefully the response will be there as well. As I mentioned on the 6th as well, we're going to have a committee that'll review the applications at the end of the application deadline, which is August 31st. We'll take a look at those and then make our recommendations to council at a later date.
John, thank you so much. Would it be possible also to put that application possibly online? I know that Mr. Jeremy Scott had emailed that out, and I think that's absolutely fabulous.
That's possible,
But
yes.
just another way for them to get that information. That is a great turnout.
Excellent idea. We'll do that.
All right, are there any council members that have any questions? All right, I'm glad to hear the turnout, and you know, I was talking to Brent earlier, and he said that our participation in our Florence Teen Council also has nearly doubled at our locations, and there's definitely a large interest in our youth participating in their local government as well as in their community, and I think that's amazing.
It's exciting to see. It really is.
So thank you for putting it out there.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 664-18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Wasn't through.
All opposed, same sign.
I was going to read the whole ordinance. You guys are in a hurry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh,
Hey, I want to talk about them.
I do. I love it. All right, new business. New business 9A. Resolution number 1662-18, which is discussion, approval, disapproval of a
We need a roll call vote on the ordinance.
What? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Woolridge?
Aye.
Councilmember Hawkins?
Aye.
Councilmember Galeen?
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Councilmember Wall?
Aye.
Councilmember Larson?
Aye.
Mayor Walter?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute recess, Ben. Thanks. All right, thank you for that brief recess. We're moving on to new business. We'll start with item 9A. Item 9A is resolution number 1662-18. This is the discussion, approval, disapproval of a resolution of the Town of Florence in Pinal County, Arizona, which is authorizing the sale of the remaining plots of Block 29 of the Town of Florence Cemetery to the TOHONO Nation, rescinding resolution number 544-96, and establishing future rates for cemetery services at then prevailing rate. Mr. Benjamin Bitter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. we've been approached by the Tohono O'odham Nation, and specifically Vice Mayor Woolridge has been approached, and the nation wanted us to assist them with acquiring the remaining parcels, which we had agreed to provide them as part of Resolution 544-96, which was passed in 1996. As part of the agreement, basically, we would provide the remaining lots within Block 29 of the cemetery. And what the nation has come to us is to ask for us to complete the sale of those remaining plots. There are about 179 left within Block 29. And this resolution would authorize the sale of those remaining plots, as well as rescind the resolution from 1996. And the reason for the rescission of the resolution is simply because our terms would be fulfilled under that resolution. By selling the remaining plots, that completes our obligations under the resolution, and so as to not confuse future members of the town of Florence or the tribe, we figured it would be easier to just simply rescind that resolution, not have to worry about it being on the books anymore, because we've completed our obligations. So this would simplify that, clear up that resolution, and then establish any other future costs, any other desire in the future to buy additional plots. Those would be at the then current rates. And again, this has been a great partnership with the Tohono O'odham Nation. They came to us and requested this. We have worked with them, had many meetings, worked with them over the past few months to get this done. Certainly with the help of Vice Mayor Woolridge in getting those parties together. And just a great thing for our partnership to continue with the nation. And so happy to take any questions.
I want to say thank you to Vice Mayor Woolridge as well as yourself for facilitating those conversations. Many of you may or may not know that Vice Mayor Woolridge does serve on that committee. Is there anything that you would like to say?
No, I'm just glad that they felt free to approach us with their requests and that we were able to work with them to grant their request for them to have that own section, because they have been burying their loved ones in that particular section, so they would like to keep them all together. So it was a win-win situation for everyone. Simplifies our procedures as well. So.
Are there any council members that have any questions or comments? Okay.
Well, we have to thank Curtis, too, for making sure we had, Curtis Williams back there, making sure that we had all the paperwork and the history that goes along with that section of the cemetery.
Thank you, Curtis. All right. Is this an item that requires a roll call vote, Mr. Billingsley?
No, only ordinances.
Okay. All right, with that, I need a motion.
A motion to adopt resolution number 1662-18, a resolution of the town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, authorizing the sale of the remaining plots of Block 29 of the town of Florence Cemetery to the Tohono O'odham Nation, rescinding resolution number 554-96, and establishing future rates for cemetery services at the then prevailing rate.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. And the motion carries. Item B is discussion, approval, and disapproval to enter into a contract with Cactus Transportation doing business as Cactus Asphalt, using the cooperative contract through Pinal County JOC, contract number 173923, asphalt maintenance and repair services, which includes the application of chip seal binder, polymer modified asphalt rubber, and fog seal binder for pavement preservation treatment in an amount not to exceed $364,018.24. The proposal was $316,537.60 with a 15% contingency of $47,480.64. Mr. Chris Salas.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. Spare everyone from the
laborious details of this. This is typical for us. We've gone now, I think, 4 straight cycles, 3 straight years for the polymer modified asphalt rubber chip seal projects. This is typical for the town of Florence at this point, and again, using a cooperative contract with one of our neighboring communities. Are there any questions?
Councilmember Wall?
I just have a nitpicky question. On the first page of the Pinal County ROQ, it lists the number 175923. Down at the bottom in the solicitation number, it says 173923. And our listing in the agenda says 173923. So are those two different things? The ROQ has a different number than the solicitation?
It should be, it should not be. I believe that was what we typically call a Scribner's error in
I think I've got an answer. The way that these contracts with cooperative language work is entities like Pinal County utilize this type of a contract for millions of dollars of work. So oftentimes what occurs, and I could be wrong, Chris, but what they do is they do a solicitation. So Pinal County would do a solicitation for a number of different products, and they'd get a response, and they utilize that for a period of time, and then they have an option to re-up that, and so it's a more abbreviated process they use to re-up that contract to extend its life and time if they're able to hold the rates the same. That may be, it may not be a Scribner's error, it may be because of that, a re-upping of an existing contract for a product with cooperative language. So, Chris, that would be my my thought process on that.
The correct number is 175923. So there are, within our RCA, the numbers do vary, and so it would be 175923.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, with that, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to enter into a contract with Cactus Transportation doing business as Cactus Asphalt using the cooperative contract through Pinal County JOC contract number 175923, asphalt maintenance and repair services, which includes the application of chip seal binder, polymer modified asphalt rubber, and FOG seal binder for pavement preservation treatment, an amount not to exceed $364,018.24. The proposal at $316,537.60 with a 15% contingency of $47,480.64.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is item C, discussion, approval, disapproval of the 2018 American Medical Response, AMR, non-exclusive revocable license agreement for temporary housing at Florence Fire Station 542. Dave Strayer.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, as the council is aware, the local hospital closed abruptly, 6 or 8 weeks ago, and that put us in a bit of a bind in terms of our emergency services. AMR was housed there along with LifeNet. They both reached out to us for help during this period of time. We did our best to accommodate them because we work closely with them, but also because we wanted to maintain our service delivery to the community. So this was a temporary agreement that we would like to continue to house them on a temporary basis. They pay us $1,423.82 a month, and again, not knowing the status of when the hospital is going to reopen, we've got a contract that's good for up to a year, and then it expires, but it's revocable any time before that. We've been in this contract now. They've been there in the station for 6 or 8 weeks. Have not encountered any problems at all. Matter of fact, there's been a couple of noteworthy calls where we feel like service delivery's improved during that time. So there's not been any negative occurrences up to this point with this arrangement, and we recommend that we approve it on a temporary basis until a permanent solution can be found. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Are there any members of council that have any questions regarding this item?
I have a question. I've noticed one of the fire trucks being parked outside lately at Station 2.
Yes, sir. Mayor, Council Member Anderson, from a safety perspective, two of the major causes of accidents in the fire service are typically occur at intersections and in backing. So we try not to back our apparatus up. So what we've done to accommodate, we don't back the ladder up, we don't back the engine up over here, and we prefer not to back the ambulance up. So in order to do that, we moved this is beyond our reserve. It's actually a spare unit that we park outside for this temporary time so that the ambulance can drive through like the other units. It's a safety precaution because of the history of accidents that occur when backing large apparatus.
Don't we have a better place to store that? What about the old fire building there that's next door?
We could look at that. We could look at a better place. It's just a temporary solution.
Yeah, I know.
So we didn't go too far with that, but we can.
Well, you know, the sun is our biggest problem out here, and units being outside.
Okay, I'll look into that, some options there.
Thank you.
That was a concern of mine as well, with the vehicles being left outside. I had a resident reach out to me a while back, and I communicated that to Mr. Billingsley because I was under the impression that there was more than enough room for the ambulance as well as the police unit that's parked outside and the fire truck that's parked outside. Now the police unit, it's fairly new, and it has had extensive sun damage, whereas our fire truck is much older and it's always been housed inside and it doesn't have a lot of damage, so I am concerned regarding that. Okay. However, that's not my primary concern. I do have a few questions just to ask you regarding this item. So there's my first and foremost is there's a lot of commercial space that is available. Has AMR reached out? Are they looking at any of that commercial space? I mean, what is their commitment? Because being housed at Station 542, that is a station that was built with CFD money. And I did ask in the June meeting when our budget was being presented if we're receiving rents for buildings that were purchased with CFD funding and is currently in a CFD. According to state statute that I read, that money should be going to pay off that bond. Has staff done any further investigation of that matter?
No, don't recall that ever being brought up.
I don't.
That's an interesting thing to look at.
And then my second part onto that was looking at how much rent is being charged. I feel that $1,443, considering the amount of revenue an ambulance service takes in, and what other rental spaces go for within the community, and especially ambulance services outside of the community, that is substantially less. Have we done any research in regards to comparison figures of what other ambulance companies or other rents?
Mayor Walter, yes, this is the exact same rate that Gilbert and Queen Creek receive. This is housing ambulances in fire stations is fairly common in Arizona. But this is very much in the ballpark of the range. I'm told runs from $1,200 to $1,600, and we're at $1,423. So we're very consistent within the range that's being paid.
Does Queen Creek operate their own ambulance service?
They do not. They have the CON, but they do not operate their own ambulance.
Who operates?
AMR.
Okay. In our contract negotiations, did we discuss CON at all, or us acquiring any part of that CON?
Contract negotiations for this agreement?
Absolutely.
No, Mayor, we didn't. Not in this. We did when we did our prior agreement. It came up, but this agreement was a stopgap due to the circumstances to address a short-term problem.
I'll give you a moment. I'm not done. Okay, so And I apologize, it's just when I'm on a train of thought, the hand kind of throws me off. All right, so with the CON, that's something that I would like to see us pursue, especially within this contract. This is, as I understand, when you have a CON, you have a duty to provide those services to the residents in which you provide them. So there's a duty to station employees in that area to provide appropriate response times.
Again, this is, Mayor, this is a stopgap temporary measure that's not connected to any long-term negotiations. CONs are very involved. They take a lot of time, energy, effort, money, and this is a short-term temporary agreement. I don't know how I would connect the CON to this.
Okay, so separate of that, just kind of moving on, I do have just a few more questions I jotted down. And I apologize, I would have asked ahead of time, but when I was talking about the agenda and placing all the items on it, this agenda item wasn't communicated and I didn't have time to talk to anybody earlier today. All right, so the town or the CFD, all right, how many people per ambulance? I did read in there that there would only be 2 members of the ambulance crew, but I did not read any, what are the repercussions when there's more?
You're correct, it is 2. There was a ride-along that did show up one evening. That problem has been corrected, and it is 2. It was a misunderstanding. We cleared it up with AMR. It isn't happening anymore.
Okay, so do we have anything that says if this does happen, then that? Like if X, then Y?
What's in the contract? There are some clauses like that in there, yes.
So what does it say in that matter?
I don't know that it addresses the number of people specifically. I'd have to pull it out and look at that specifically. I don't remember that being in there.
Okay, Cliff, can you look that up while I go on to my next questions and I'll loop back to it? My number one concern is station security, as is with any building in our town and in our municipality. How are we monitoring who is coming, who is going, are doors being left open?
Doors are not being left open. There's one primary unit that's assigned. And again, in a new program like this, you work out the kinks. There were some circumstances when we first implemented where we were having move-up units that were coming in and rotating through. That's been corrected as well. Plus, we have a cutoff time of no changes like that after 10 o'clock, so we don't interrupt the crew's schedule any more than necessary. So we work through those operational issues as they occur. And again, things seem to be going well thus far.
Is there a keypad system that can track who is coming and who is going?
We've spoke with IT about that, but it has not been implemented because, again, a temporary measure, we didn't want to expend the funds.
Okay, so now that we're looking at a potential year contract, is it feasible on their end, since their rent is really low, because I've done some research as well, and would it be feasible for them to be responsible for putting in a keypad system that can serve that purpose?
We could absolutely look at that.
Okay, so if we're looking at it, I'm just going to move forward. I had 2 more things. What control does the town have for people working when issues shall arise?
Well, we have a captain at the station that's in charge of the station that's responsible for what takes place there. And if that individual encounters issues, then they have a chain of command where he reports to the battalion chief of operations, who reports to me. So there's a process for any kind of personnel issues, whether it's ours or theirs or a combination of both.
Have you had any issues reported to you at all, whether it's any nature, small or large?
Just again, the issue of the third person one time and the rotation of the units, both of which have been corrected. That's all that's been communicated to me. And again, if there's anything else out there, we'll take care of it.
Okay, how about the coverage in regards to an ALS as well as a BLS? I didn't note that in the contract.
They have the option of doing that per contract a certain number of times per month. Okay. So they were within their contract.
So how many times per month is that?
2 times a month.
2 times per month. All right, 2 more questions, Chief. In regards to maintenance and upkeep, because remember, they're going to be using the facilities. I'm assuming that's everything, that's all encompassing. So we're responsible for that additional wear and tear as a town. Are we going to have additional money set aside in the budget to cover those additional wear and tear items?
Well, that is the $1,423 per month we're receiving is supposed to cover those sorts of things.
Okay, so money will go to buy, supplies for cleaning, et cetera?
Any expenses incurred comes out of that money.
Okay. Obviously, I really do feel that we're missing some of the information in the way that it was presented. Is there anything AMR would like to come up and say? Okay. I would like to have, yes, Mr. Billingsley.
I just was asking for my time with respect to this. I think I can answer some of the questions. I stood ready previously to be able to answer them, but I'm going to use that time now if possible. We did do research with respect to the rental cost associated with this, and as the chief provided, what we ended up with is very much within that range and consistent with neighboring communities. We got very clear direction from council, which was to move forward on immediately with an interim agreement, and we utilized that to its furthest extent and discussed that we would not work on any type of long-term agreement until the timing was right, and that we would look at other items. You brought up the CON discussion as part of that more long-term agreement if we ended up in that fashion. So we were following council's direction to move forward with this. With respect to 2 people per ambulance, that is included in section 3.3.1. The next question that was asked, and it is 2 per, the next question that was asked is how would we deal with an issue like that? It's very clear in the contract in terms of written notice, which was provided, and that they must cure within 3 days, and my understanding is that was handled as appropriate regarding the 2 versus 3. As the chief said, in terms of security and keypad, that's something else that we have discussed with respect to our IT department, if it's necessary with respect to it. We've been tracking the issue and making sure we keep an ear to the ground in terms of issues. As the chief said, nothing, as a matter of fact, none of these had come to my attention as a potential issue. I think it's working very well. The next thing is, I have never had it communicated to me by anyone regarding the parking the fire truck outside. That is a completely new issue that I've never heard of before this evening, and we do have that other building that's adjacent to that. I don't see any reason why we can't put that vehicle in that building. And lastly, I wanted to say something positive with respect to the turnaround time. Dave, AMR, Cliff, everybody dropped a number of things that they were working on to try and negotiate and get this deal done as soon as possible. And I wanted to say thank you to AMR and to Cliff and to Dave for all their hard work in making this happen. We're also coincidentally working on the other agreement, and it's taking a little bit longer, but we're trying to accelerate that as much as possible. And if I've missed council's direction on how to deal with this item, I apologize, but to me it was very clear how we're supposed to move forward.
All right, I did bring up that item, and I apologize if you didn't get my message, but I know that I also had shared it with Councilmember Anderson because it was a member of our community that reached out, as well as with Lisa. Secondly, I really am not pleased that I don't have an answer yet regarding the CFD and how that money is going to be handled. So I expect one this week.
Mayor, if I may, the document that I prepared and intentionally prepared it as a license to hopefully avoid any repercussions with the GIPLET under the state statute. I'm not aware of anything. I mean, I'm not a bond counsel. I could ask Mike Cafiso, but and I would be glad to confirm with him.
Would this be
But-
something we would want to confirm before we approve a contract and then find out that, hey, they also have to pay a giblet and we didn't include that in the original contract?
Well, for the giblet, that wouldn't be our call. That would be the state and the state treasurer or the county treasurer. I mean, we write in our leases and our licenses that AMR, a licensee, or a tenant is responsible if at the end of the day, the taxing authority decides that it must be paid, it is their responsibility. So that is addressed. It is their responsibility if that becomes an issue.
And if the money is supposed to pay off the bonds, then they will go pay off the bonds,
Not answer
otherwise
that.
where will they go?
Yeah, I have no idea. We did not contemplate the CFDs in this, and I'm not sure that's really relevant, but I can certainly check with Mike Cafiso. And
It's
as I
all
said,
relevant, Cliff.
this is a license,
That
so
way.
it's meant to be revocable. It's meant to be short-term, so it's not a lease.
In the town. I think you can check with Mike, but I'm thinking because they donated that land to the town to build that station.
Well, I mean, and I
be ours like any other.
But we're still paying for the building out of the bond for that area. That's where the issue comes in too, for that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't answer.
Technicalities, but I think that our direction to you was that we needed to make sure our residents were going to have the emergency services that they're accustomed to. And I think you can check the technicalities without it appearing to be a hostile environment, and that's what I'm kind of feeling right now, and I don't want us to be like that. I mean, check the technicalities, but your direction from council was accurate in that we wanted to make sure those services stayed in our community for our residents.
And I'll put it out there. I would like to see our community operate our own ambulance, which is why I'm asking for part of the CON.
That's.
I know, and that's only one out of, at least part of it, because here's.
Not a moneymaker, and it's.
Anyways, that can be another conversation because that's not what's on the agenda. But I do have, some substantial concerns, especially when it comes to safety and access to the building, because I've observed, you had mentioned, a lot of the accidents occur backing up as well as at intersections. I remember when that intersection was approved by council many years ago, and there was supposed to be a turn lane going into the station. To this day, we still don't have that, and even myself, if I'm visiting, if I'm stopping by, I've been almost rear-ended several times.
Mayor Walter, Mr. Salas can address this better than I can, but that project is in the works.
So, and again, my concern, my number one here would be security of who's entering the facility, who's leaving, or any doors being left open, and the equipment that we own as a town being left out in the sun, being exposed to the environmental hazards. So, all right, with that, I need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2018 American Medical Response AMR non-exclusive revocable license agreement for temporary housing at Florence Fire Station 542.
Second.
Okay, motion and seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And the motion carries. All right, managers report.
And in the interest of time, I'm going to hold my manager's report till the next meeting.
Okay, call to the public. Call to the council. Councilmember Anderson.
No, nothing.
Councilmember Galeen.
Yes, I would just like to say that a lot of the issues that were brought up about the fire station are operational issues that I feel our fire chief is very competent and capable of handling. These are not anything that the council should be getting involved in as far as operational goes.
Councilmember Hawkins.
I agree with what Becky just said. Yeah, this is up to it's a day-to-day decisions that we were discussing there. I don't know what it had to do with the ambulance service myself. But, And if we want to get into a private ambulance service, then that's something that should be discussed at another time. We're trying to keep ambulance service going now.
Councilmember Wall.
I would like to thank Chief Strayer for diligently putting this package together and for working to create a cooperative atmosphere at that fire station. I think it's very important for the residents in the area to have that assurance that they have rapid response in case of an emergency. And I hope that we do continue to have a cooperative arrangement between AMR and our fire department. Thank you.
Councilmember Larson.
Best thing about being in this spot is I just get to say ditto. So.
Vice Mayor Woolridge.
I'll say ditto, ditto, ditto.
All right, so I'm going to close out with, I love that we have great responses to our community. However, I strongly feel that regardless of if we let AMR rent in the station or not, it is their duty to provide our citizens with that appropriate response time according to the requirements set forth. It's not necessarily, I'm all about partnering with organizations and that public partner private-ship. But I look at this situation and say, what are they bringing to the table? They had a duty to provide that anyhow through the CON. So what are we benefiting through having them at our station? I do see some positives. I do see a lot of negatives. If we can get my concerns under, control regarding, security, some procedural things, absolutely. I hope that we have some honest communication regarding, any feedback. Council always finds ourselves receiving positive feedback. And you know what? There are a lot of positive things that happen. But there is nothing worse than when things do not go according to plan, and then we end up finding out after the fact that there's this issue, that issue, this issue, that issue, and it ends up building up. And then all of council says, why didn't we know? So I just ask for some open and honest communication that is, consistently brought forth. With that, we are going to an executive session. I need a motion.
Making a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.